Summer Game Fest has officially kicked off. Kind of. I'm sure you've got legal logistics around including something like PlayStation State of Play on your website, but sometimes it feels like Jeff Keighley and the Game Awards team are just running a fan event covering the gaming industry. Either way, we're coming up on the biggest week of the year in video games, and looking at that roster, events big and small are coming to live streams across the internet. The main show kicks things off on June 7th before we get a giant drop of events ranging from the always unhinged Devolver Direct to the big hitters like the Xbox Showcase, PC Gaming Show, and Ubisoft Forward. But PlayStation beat everyone to the punch with a State of Play last week that honestly was a victim of timing more than anything else. This is the first year that Sony hasn't held a big summer showcase to go head-to-head with their main competition. Last year's PlayStation show had Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater, the PlayStation Portal, and the Marathon Revival over at Bungie. It was a packed show. Obviously, a showcase and a State of Play are two very different events, but you're someone watching a video about gaming presentations, and I'm someone who's talking about them. So of course we're going to know to keep our expectations in check here. But even so, players know the big announcements usually come during the summer, and what PlayStation delivered in this State of Play gave a look at a very different kind of PlayStation. The show kicked off with an unusually long amount of time of cinematic trailers and gameplay of Concord, a new 5v5 hero shooter that looks like Destiny mixed with Overwatch and Valorant. The game didn't look bad per se, but it did come off as feeling very generic. The gunplay looks like it was heavily pulled from games that already exist, and the characters have been panned online as store-brand Guardians of the Galaxy. Now, God of War Ragnarok is coming to PC, and a newly fleshed-out Astro Bot game are on the way, but those were the only big showings from PlayStation's first-party studios. Now it's great to see Asobi get the chance to make a full Astro Bot game that has that Super Mario Odyssey vibe, and could end up being PlayStation's new flagship family-friendly platformer. And it's also great to see Ragnarok finally come to PC with super ultra-wide support, DLSS, and all those other perks that come with PC gaming. And it's also clear that PlayStation is still invested in spotlighting third-party multi-platform games and timed exclusives like Silent Hill 2, which looks way better than it did a year ago. I was wrong on that one. I thought it was going to be bad. It could still be bad, but it looks way better. But even with games to look forward to, PlayStation is clearly trying to figure out who they are and what they're doing. Because times are changing. PlayStation dominated the PlayStation 4 era, both because Microsoft completely fumbled with the Xbox One at launch in terms of price and power, and because PlayStation just simply had better games. For a lot of people, the PlayStation 4 era was defined by games like God of War, Spider-Man, and Horizon, while they also continued to lean into series that got their start on the PlayStation 3, like Uncharted and The Last of Us. Over the 11 years since the PS4 launch, those games became how people defined PlayStation. The narrative cropped up online that every PlayStation game is an over-the-shoulder third-person story-driven action game, but even if they were good. Obviously, PlayStation is still sticking to their guns and continuing to bring new experiences through these franchises. God of War Ragnarok is one of the PlayStation 5's flagship cross-gen games. The Last of Us Part 2 just got a PS5 remaster. Spider-Man 2 dropped last fall. But no matter how good these games are, they're the new normal for PlayStation. Ragnarok was more God of War. Part 2 is more The Last of Us. Spider-Man 2 was more Spider-Man. Games like these still pack a punch, but it's time for PlayStation to put some stakes in the ground and prove to players why they should be excited about the next 10 years of PlayStation, instead of reminding them why the last 10 years has been so good. And as PlayStation is exploring these new ideas and greenlighting new games, the worry for me coming off of things like this State of Play is that they're chasing trends that result in games that not only feel like other games, but that feel similar to each other. Now obviously it's too early to tell if this is going to be a real problem, but Destiny and Concord look shockingly similar. And we might not have gameplay, but I'd throw Marathon in that mix too. These are 3 PlayStation first-party games, 2 of them already look very similar, and all 3 of them are futuristic sci-fi shooters. Now this isn't to say these games aren't going to be good, they're all decent concepts on paper, but it's not the PlayStation that we've come to expect. And change feels weird, it's very uncomfortable. One lackluster State of Play also doesn't mean that there's nothing else in the pipeline that fits that old PlayStation mode that we've all come to know. Insomniac is working on Wolverine, Naughty Dog is working on something new that's not The Last of Us, and Sucker Punch is cracking away at the next Ghost of Tsushima game. But it is pretty clear that as PlayStation is figuring out what new ideas they are bringing to the table, they're following the money and they're going for multiplayer games that keep players coming back with new content drops and probably some battle passes thrown in there, instead of relying on that tried and true single-player game that's been their bread and butter for decades. They're going to be testing and learning, a lot, and not every game is going to be a hit. I mean, look at the reaction to something like Fair Games, which does not have gameplay and just has a cinematic trailer. It's a team-based heist game that feels like a crossover between Watch Dogs and Payday. The top comment is already saying it's got the vibe that it's going to be shut down after a year. But you can't find your next big hit without taking some risks and trying new ideas. And I'd say we're going to be seeing a lot of new ideas from PlayStation over the next few years. But let me know down below, what did you think about the May State of Play, and what do you think about the direction that PlayStation is heading? Are you excited for more games like Concord, or would you rather see PlayStation stick with their big single-player games from franchises that we know? I'd love to know your thoughts. And of course, as always, if you're new here, you like what you see and what you hear, hit that subscribe button for videos like this every week and gaming news shorts throughout the week to keep you in the loop, and I'll catch you on the next one.